every single prompt free. I wanted to take my film Salty and I've organized it all in Milanote with every image I used, every prompt, every video, the videos that got fed back in, plus new images, plus new prompts, the full timeline of how I created this entire film. I have mapped it out, every prompt in here, so that you can come in here and you can hopefully learn from this how you can create a film like Salty or any film really. This is how I did it. Now you'll have your own ways, but I really think this is going to help you. So let's jump into it. Salty. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to come into Milanote. Milanote is essentially a large canvas, and you can just drag and drop all your assets onto it. This is what I use to organize my projects, especially when I'm working with a couple people. So in here, I've taken the film and I've broken it down into 6 scenes, even though it's really just one scene inside and outside. I wanted to break it down even further. It just makes it easier to understand. What you've got here is, okay, this is the girl scene, right? So this is the opening shot. And so this is the shot. We're going to call it a scene. If you come into this folder, inside of here, this is where you're going to see how this shot was created. Started with these 2 images, and you can click on these and see them full screen and all that kind of stuff. And then I used this prompt with these images. You can see how they're referenced: image leg, image dress, and that's what gave me this video. Then I took this video, I threw it back in to CapCut, and I added these images, and this was my prompt, and that gave me the extension of this video. Then I took both of those and I threw them into the editor, and I added some red flashes, stitched them together, and that's what gave me my final shot, which you can see here. And so that's basically what all of these scenes are. You come into each of them and you can see exactly how this scene was made. Every single prompt is right here. I've included all of it. And a lot of these shots are long shots, which, as you know, you have to do shorter gens and then stitch them together. So that's what this means, 1A, 1B, 1C. That just means this is one shot, and these are all of the videos that I generated to stitch together. And I even drill down into, okay, well, maybe there was something wrong with the shot and I had to fix it. Like, for instance, this shot, he's holding the phone, he goes through the door, phone's gone. Do you see that? In his hand, there is no more phone. So I took this, edited a little section of that out, threw it into Runway Elite 2.0, and then I put the phone in his hand, regenerated it, composited those back onto each other, because I don't just use Elite clips. I always composite the small part that I need, and now he's got the phone in his hand. And again, then I took that and I threw that back in, and I used this video clip plus this image with this prompt to get this shot. And I cut to it in the edit, I cut to it right here. So we use it while he's still walking, and he pulls the phone close, and then the camera goes back over his shoulder, right? So you can see exactly how this entire film was made. And I really think this is going to be helpful, for the main reason of, when people do behind the scenes, often it's, there's a lot of like, we did this and then we did this and then that was done. And you're kind of like, well, wait a minute. Well, how did you get from there to there? And even though I don't get into any of the details on how I created the images, because honestly, that's just so much more work. That's a whole other, how did I prompt all the images? That's a whole other thing. And, one day I'll be able to just release all of that stuff too, very easily. But this took a lot of work, putting this together for you guys. Like there's a lot in here, as you can see, where this clip was used to create this shot, and it was used to create this shot. This clip was then used and edited and then transferred over and changed, and then that was used over here to create this shot, which was also used to create this clip, and so forth and so on. So because there's a lot of, like any process, but especially AI. There's a lot of this going on where this happens. And that's not really seen very often in behind the scenes, understandably so. But I wanted to give you a complete roadmap with every image, every prompt, and every video that made the cut, so you can see this is at least what it takes to create something like Salty. And I do think that you'll be able to learn a lot from successful prompting. Now, as you also know, just because a prompt works once doesn't mean it's going to work twice. So you do have to keep that in mind. But the principles of how I prompt, I'm really hoping that that's helpful for you at least to see this is how Salty can be created. Well, what can you do with some of the principles that you glean from these prompts? It's worth a shot. You can come in and you can also see, okay, well, how are performances controlled and characters maintained consistently? How are you getting, this shot, like this shot, down the hallway, around the corner, through the room, into a close-up of her face, and then his hand comes into the frame. How do you get that shot? I did it with these images. You see, I went through the hallway. I created this image, and then we're going around the corner, and we go past him, and then we go into the close-up, and then I created the character sheet of him. And then you can see how all of these images tie together to create this kind of shot. You can see the camera language behavior and so forth and so on. And this is, going to really help you understand these are just ways that you can achieve these things. It's not the way, but it is a way that you can achieve certain things where you're moving the camera inside of a scene, you've got blocking, you've got control, you can have space inside of your prompts to dial in performance because the images are doing a lot of the work or the video is doing a lot of the work. And then in each scene, I include the final result. So this is here, this is for you. I really hope that it helps. What I want to talk next about is CapCut, because this is not where I create. This is just where I put everything. CapCut is where things get created. CapCut produced Salty. Huge thank you to CapCut, by the way. They are awesome. Kayla at CapCut has been just the most incredible person to work with. She is an absolute joy to work with. I can't speak highly enough about her, and her whole team and CapCut are just really, really great. They said, make what you want, go make what you want. They gave me a lot of trust and a lot of credits, and I can't say thank you enough. So how do you do it? How do you use CapCut? Simple. You just take your images or videos or audio files and just drag and drop them straight into the canvas. And once you're in the canvas and you get your image in, then over here you have your agent, basically. You can drag this over and drag this up so this is a bit bigger. That's what I like to do. And then whenever you select something inside of your canvas, it will add here. You see that? So I can delete that, but if I want to add it, I just click it. And then you can also @reference things. So I can say, in fact, let's do this. Let's come back here to Milanote, and let's get this exact prompt. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to grab this prompt. As you can see, I use this image, and I'm going to paste it in here, and then I'm going to remove that, click that, and that's it. Now for this one, I used Seedance 2.0 4K. And so that was 15 seconds, generate. So this is obviously an agent, right? I'm not just putting in my prompt here. It's taking my prompt, it's digesting it. Essentially, it is rewriting it in the back end to be more conducive for Seedance. However, my opinion, and it's just opinion, and my testing, is that it really doesn't matter. You can have an agent interpret your prompt, and you can have a prompt just go straight into Seedance, and you're going to get the same result if your prompt is sound, I won't say good because that's subjective, but if it is sound, it's detailed, it's extremely descriptive, you're giving heavy-handed direction with absolute clarity. If you write your prompts like that, then the agent doesn't really need to do a bunch of work. Now, if you just come into here and you're like, I don't know, the guy walks down the hall and answers his phone. A girl is on the phone. She's like, "What's up, dude?" Right? If you write your prompts like that, you need an agent. In fact, CapCut's going to be your best friend because it's going to take that and go, okay, so here we go, and it's going to rewrite it. But let's take a look at my prompt. This is a little hard to read, a little small to read, so I'm going to come back over here so you can read this prompt with me. Let's take a look at the prompt. So as I say, if you're writing like this, then the agent isn't going to need to do a ton of work. For me, this is how I prefer to write prompts, with extreme detail and clarity and direction, because if something doesn't go right, I would like to see I want to be able to discern where did I go wrong, correct it, and get a better result. But if you're coming in here and you're just talking like this and you get a result you don't like, and you're like, he's walking too slow, make him walk faster. You can work like this, but what you're doing is essentially you're requiring all of the prompts to be written for you in the background. Now, I don't really like that because I lose control. So what I like to do is I like to know what I'm prompting, and then I can reconcile where it went wrong to the prompt itself, and then change the prompt slightly and throw it back in and try again. So instead of just the guy's walking through the hall, he answers the phone, listens to the girls talking, I say, the man in the red shirt walks through a large, colorful dance hall filled with support beams made of mirrors on the ceiling, mirrors on the back wall, along with colorful lights refracting and reflecting diffused light. Colorful lights strobe and flash diffused light. By the way, redundancy is very powerful with prompting. And then I go into camera movement. The camera tracks forward, or in whatever direction the man in the red shirt moves, at exactly the same speed and rhythm as the man in the red shirt. Framing stays consistent. The man in the red shirt never drifts out of position. The camera is locked to his motion as though the camera were strapped to his body. The camera doesn't lag, lead, or bounce independently. It feels glued to the man's pace. This is an objective third-person tracking shot that makes the viewer feel like they are walking right behind the character. Audio, no music. We only hear the natural Foley sounds within the shot and the voicemail dialogue. Now, when you go to somewhere like, I don't know, Hicksfield, I don't know why you would, but let's say you did. Let's say you're making bad choices and you go over to Hicksfield. Okay, if you hit Snorri Cam or something, it's just this. They've just put prompt language in the back end and turned it into a button. I mean, everything with video generations, it's just prompting. And so whenever you go anywhere and you kind of like click this button and you get this camera action or you get this movement, it's all just back-end prompting. And with agents, such as in CapCut, it too is back-end prompting. It's just happening on top of your prompt. So you can be as descriptive as I am or as non-descriptive as you want to be. In fact, have fun, experiment, see what you get if you're super descriptive versus if you're just kind of loosey-goosey and you just kind of go, hey, he's walking, he trips, he falls, something funny happens. Well, you can, I would say, be very experimental unless you're getting horrible results, and then be very descriptive. The benefit of being very descriptive is when you want to make slight changes, you can discern where and how. If you're not, and you lean solely on an agent and you're just loosey-goosey, you don't really know how you can change it. It becomes more of a conversation you have with an AI bot, basically, to get closer to something that you want. Both have benefits. Both are worth tucking into. Okay, so we have our video generation. So what you can do is you can come here, you can click this, download without watermark. What you can do is you can click prompt, and look what it's going to do. This is what's really interesting. They are going to show you what they turned your prompt into. So let's copy this. Let's actually come back over here for the purpose of comparison. It's probably going to be easy to show the comparison. As you know, this was the prompt that we put in. This is what they turned it into. You see, it is a different prompt. Now, is it wildly different? No, it's not wildly different. In fact, you can print screen this and get a complete understanding, if you want to dissect it, of what's different. But animate the image. You see what I mean? This right here. You might look at that and go, I'm going to say that now from now on. If Seedance likes to hear animate the image, then I'm going to talk like that to them. Whereas I look at something like that and I go, you don't need to say that. It's a video model. It's going to animate the image, you know? So this is where looking at how CapCut takes your prompt and interprets it into a prompt that it believes Seedance will like, this is definitely worth doing. And this is one of the reasons I think CapCut is so interesting. And there were quite a few times where I would just inspect the prompt that it changed my prompt to and try to discern what I believe are more valuable methods of communication. And then I really did implement those new methods of communication into my prompting at a principled level, not just a one-off to one-off level, but I'm always going to talk like that kind of thing. They also shoved all the dialogue down here. Whereas what I do is I kind of mixed it into the middle of my prompt because I have a little bit more of, when I prompt, I do tend to speak sequentially. So an example of that is best seen in how the camera moves. So I won't have a prompt read typically like, all of this action happens, and then at the bottom, here's what the camera's doing. Now, I can do that for this because the camera is doing one consistent thing. But if your camera movement is doing certain things while things are happening in your shot, which is essentially the essence of blocking, then you have to weave those two things together. So, as the man leans forward and starts to look at us on the verge of giving us this big monologue, the intensity rising, the camera slowly starts to push in and boom down slightly, tilting up to accentuate his lean. Now he's leaning over us. And as he begins to speak, he says X and Y and Z. And slowly but surely, the camera, now at a lower angle, starts to slowly orbit towards the right, favoring the left side of his face. And as he continues to say X and Y and Z, the camera not only continues to slowly orbit, but now starts to push in, even zooming in closer to his face as he continues to say X and Y and Z, until finally the camera is almost behind him, now racking focus to the person that he's talking to. Well, you have to explain the camera movement with the action. So a lot of the times your prompt language for your camera and your blocking, those two things, they converge. But it is very helpful to come down here and see, well, how does Seedance interpret that? If you write that prompt out and then you put it back in here and Seedance is like, actually, this is better, then you might learn something about how to incorporate and when to incorporate what type of language. Now, if you find that your prompt is better if it's left alone than what they do, then that too is going to reveal something to you about what are the best principled ways of speaking to Seedance. And mark my words, Seedance doesn't even know the best way of speaking to Seedance. They don't. Nobody who's building AI knows how to use it perfectly. We're all figuring this out together, you know? So I wouldn't lean too heavily on, well, Seedance said this is what they want. I mean, I've done plenty of tests with plenty of models where they're like, do this. And I do it, and I'm like, that didn't really work very well, but if you do this, it works better. So you want to really gather as much information as you can, but then use your instincts, right? So I like to gather this information and to take a look at that stuff, but only so that I can then go back and discern this is what I want to do with that information. So you know, let's just play this shot. And again, it's a different take. I've just made this right now. But you can see this prompt works. It's pretty much the opening shot of Salty.
I'll be home later because I kind of, wait a sec. Why? Shut up. Anyways, I love you. I'll be late, a little late, but I love.
Really good. In fact, I think I liked the shouting in the background of the voicemail of that call better than mine. But it's done. What are you going to do? Now, I just want you to notice something. You see these black doors? You see, that's revealed. So that's definitely something you want. Whatever's hidden, you definitely want to put a character sheet in. If you have a character that's revealed in your shot, well, put the character sheet in and say, this person is revealed. If there's something that he's walking towards and his body is obscuring it, then you want to describe that, kind of as best you can. In as much detail as you think is necessary. So the last thing that I'll show you, because that is really the essence of CapCut and how you use it. It's not complicated. It's actually quite straightforward. It's just different from using another platform that doesn't have agents built into it. And you do have to stay organized. That's why I use Milanote. Like, I want to know what prompt I used to get what successful generation. So I did not use this prompt to create this video. I used this prompt to create this video, and CapCut turned it into this prompt. So I just think that that's important to note. And you may have to do a little bit of independent. Here's the prompt I use. I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna store it, and with the image, much like I'm doing here. Here's the image I used. Here's the prompt I used, so that you can, have a good account for what is working, what are the principles, and can you throughline them into new video generations. So the only thing I want to show you is how this works consistently. So. I took this video, I fed it back in with, another image. So let's just take this image. You're not going to be able to download all of my images. So now I've got this image, right? So this video plus this image, that's why I'm going to line them up here like this. Now I'm going to come back here. Again, you would write this prompt, but I've already done this, so I don't need to go out and write it all. But I'm going to take this. I'm going to put it in here. Here's my prompt. I'm going to move this up so I can see more of it. And for this video, this would be video. Man walking, right? And for this image, it would simply be this. And that's it. The scene continues seamlessly from the end of this video. There are ways you can say this differently. Seamlessly continue this video, but using the word seamlessly, I would recommend that. Let's take a look.
Later.
Hey, look at all the reflections of this guy. So yeah, that's it. CapCut Creator Studio. It's a massive canvas with lots of possibility. And I think you'll have a lot of fun. So CapCut, plus having the entirety of this short film, Salty, at your fingertips, this is here for you to learn. Take a look at how I did things. I'm sure you're going to come up with some brilliant new ways on what you could do as a result of what I did. I mean, that's how I learn. I look at what other people do, and then I put a spin on it. I think that's really interesting. Let me try this. And so I'm hoping you can come in here and you can see how I did things and get your own ideas on what you could do. Like I've never seen anybody do this as a character sheet, but I just tried it and it worked like a charm. Worked great. I wanted to favor their backs. So I thought, well, let me favor their backs in this character sheet, and I'll just put their faces as these close-ups. And I'll overlap them on top of each of their arms so that it's clear who they belong to. There's a lot of little, I think, hopefully insights inside of here on tricks and tips on how you can prompt and correlate images and assets and video assets into your prompts. And I can't wait to see what you create maybe as a result of some of this information and from deep diving straight into CapCut. So have fun. Enjoy.